Hello and welcome. This is Head to Head on UATV and I am Oles Gardyuk. Ukrainian transporting infrastructure has been in dire need of reforming for years now, and just recently the Office of the National Investment Council of Ukraine, together with the representatives of the business community, have developed and presented a roadmap aimed to help achieving this ambitious goal. To talk more about this roadmap, we are joined in the studio today by Nadiiya Kaznacheyeva, Project Manager of the National Investment Council of Ukraine. Hello and thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Ms. Kaznacheyeva, please tell us more about this roadmap. What does it focus on, basically?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this studio today.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, I'm glad to disclose, the roadmap on transport infrastructure that we developed within the Office of the National Investment Council. With the support of the working group on infrastructure that we currently created in the Investment Council, and it consists of several members. Among them are professional business association like ACC, EBA, transport units, etc., and some experts from transport, sector.
Mm-hmm. So all of them evaluated the situation in Ukraine and came up with some
solutions. So we since March this year we had two meetings of this working group in our office, and by having this working group in our office, we elaborated some steps on what should be done in infrastructure, actually, to first of all, to help to invite investors to infrastructure, and first, and second, to improve regulation for current investors, for current business in transport infrastructure. And I'm very happy, that this roadmap is supported not only by business association and the business itself, but with a key government authorities like the Minister of Infrastructure. We had a common presentation of this roadmap, and it's fully supported by this body, and surely we will go on together with government authorities
to implement this roadmap.
Yes, to implement this roadmap.
Well, what are the practical steps then? What should be done in Ukraine?
So actually, I would like just to tell that infrastructure is not, it couldn't be modernized in 1, 2, 3 years.
Of course. And we are talking specifically about transport infrastructure.
Yes, we are talking about transport infrastructure. And I would say that transport infrastructure, it's more about long-term perspectives. It's about 7, 10 years. So we cannot design a magic stick that will, create roads in our country or modernize railway in our country, but still we think that there are practical steps that could be done within 1 year, and that will improve some specific niche aspects of the transport infrastructure.
So the deadline of this roadmap is 1 year?
Within 1 year.
Within 1 year, okay.
Yeah.
So these are the first steps to implement within this ongoing year.
We are very happy that we managed to complete this roadmap till September, actually, because we understand that nowadays, till end of summer, we have kind of weekend for parliament, and some holidays will have government authorities, etc., etc. So we are ready to start its implementation already from the 1st of September, once all the people will be in place in our country.
Great.
And of course, there are several reforms that even could be done this year, not next year. And it's not only about laws, it's about some specific regulation, like decree of the Cabinet of Ministers that could be approved in 1 to 3 months.
Decreed on what?
It's several issues. For instance, when we are talking about specifically what we propose to do in transport infrastructure. For instance, first step that could be done this year already, it's a loan concession. So the draft loan concession was provided by the Cabinet of Ministers to the Parliament in March this year. First hearings successfully were held in April with the first hearings, and we expect the second hearings will be be in September, and of course will be approved the whole law on concession, which will, we believe, open the door for not only for the new investors, but as well for the existing ones, and will attract approximately up to $10 billion to transport infrastructure.
Well, so this basically everything concerns about investment climate here in Ukraine. But a part of this investment climate, a part of investors being interested, local investors or foreign investors being interested in developing their business in Ukraine, what is going to be done? What roads are going to be fixed? Or maybe the railway is in the focus of this roadmap? Or what practical destinations are now the main one across Ukraine, or maybe in Ukraine?
Listen, we as the Office of the National Investment Council, like other non-governmental bodies like Ukraine Invest, like other like BRDO and other offices, we help to create modern regulation. We will not do the projects because the projects will be done.
Plan.
Yes, we create the regulation, and then the project will be implemented easier. For instance, if we say about concession, so everybody we see, even every day we see investors coming to Ukraine say we want to build concession road in Ukraine. Do you have the regulation? Do you have a clear law? No, we don't. So this law that will be implemented this year will be, will help, and we already have helped some investors to start, to prepare these projects. For instance, we worked closely with big French company Bouygues, and they, successfully signed a memorandum with Ukravtodor on 2 potential projects, Kyiv-Bila Tserkva and a small part of big Kyiv Ring Road. So it's small projects, but again, we understand that after small pilot projects, big projects will be there. But the regulation still should be modernized. For instance, in seaports, we understand that Ukraine today is not competitive. Why? Because seaport tariffs is too high, comparing with all over the world, especially because it used to be. So if in other countries port duties are held by market and established by market, in Ukraine they are established by government, and that's it. So they are fixed, and they do not, feel the market. That is why we,
not flexible.
We stress, and we are happy that the Ministry of Infrastructure, has made a, very serious, step in January and reduced with the Cabinet of Ministers the port duties on 20%. But still, the new modernization of tariffs is still there, and exactly this, step is out in our, roadmap, because we believe that, it will help our, stevedoring companies that work in our ports to compete with Romania, with Turkey, with Georgia, and others in this region.
In your opinion, would privatization help to solve this issue?
Exactly, yes. This is one more, issue raised in our report, in our roadmap. We believe that privatization or concession will not only help to fight with corruption. This is a crucial step, but again it will help to attract investments to our assets and to modernize some assets like seaports, like river. In this case, we believe that not only law on privatization that was passed in the parliament is needed, but some sector reforms should be done. Yes, like law on railway. It is in the parliament for 3 years, and still it is not voted. So we want to stress that this law is needed, and we surely will advocate for this law to be passed in the parliament, as well as a law on inner waterways. So our river is underutilized today. It used to have around 50 million tons of cargo on our river, on Dnieper River. So today it's 5 million. So we have capacity to grow, but again we need to develop, and this law draft law on inner waterways that was registered in the parliament and passed transport committee in the parliament. So we will advocate it as well in order to be passed in the parliament and to move efforts on river development in Ukraine as well.
Since these laws are not passed yet, what is your take on this adopted law on privatization? Because it provides a new system of regulations for buying the assets. This auction, when you have the first proceeding, and then if it doesn't happen that somebody buys it, the price is being decreased by 25%, if I'm not mistaken. Are there any suspicions that some oligarchs would play some scenarios not, well, basically to fail the first attempt of auction?
Well, actually, we are living not in an ideal world, and everywhere
we cannot predict
the failures,
everything.
Can happen. That is why we need just to make something for success stories. Yes. For instance, you know that I was Deputy Minister of Infrastructure in 2015 and 16, and I was among the team who helped to elaborate, for instance, 2 pilot projects on concession of seaports Olvia and Kherson. So, because why we were, designed this idea? Because all seaports of Ukraine are in the list of the companies that cannot be privatized. So it's nonsense. And
why are they in this list?
Because it's a history, I don't want to comment why they are there, but we need to fight and to exempt them from the list. It's useless. That is why we still think that this port could be invested, and concession is very commonly used form of private public partnership in the world, and a lot of money going around the world, and they want this money to come to Ukraine. Moreover, big financial institutions like EBRD, IFC, and World Bank, they support this idea and support it not only like advisors, but with technical support. And so I am, very keen, and I'm, very ambitious that these projects will happen end of this year, start of next year.
And getting back to our topic about the roadmap itself, about this whole plan for 1 year to start the reform with. So you think that the start is going to be on September 1st. What are you going to start with? What are the first steps to adopt, some legislation or regulations, or to fix, to repair something practical on land?
Well, actually, it will be, the formal date of the start, but we still now we are working on some preparation for the stages. For instance, I believe that we were promised, and we advocate this, that the first meeting of the committee in the parliament that will be held in September will consider, for instance, law on concession to be voted in the second hearing.
This you mentioned.
First of all, second, we are moving and advocating the program of corporate governance reform in state-owned companies, big state-owned companies like Ukrzaliznytsia, like Ukryposhta, like Ukrainian seaport authorities, like Borispil Airport. So creating what is a corporate governance? Corporate governance is not only establishment of the independent supervisory board that will, manage the company, but not politicals who will manage the company. Yes. But it's not only the supervisor. It's a very global, documentation and corporate governance rules that we want to be implemented in our companies. For instance, Ukrzaliznytsia, you probably know, successfully passed this road. When I was in the Ministry of Infrastructure, we completed corporatization of the company, and it is not a state-owned company, it is a public company owned by state still. And new independent supervisory board was appointed last week, and I'm happy that such representatives are there. So we next step, for instance, in corporate governance, I believe that till the end and in September, October, we will have the same case with Ukryposhta. All the preparatory work is done, so you can, apply to Ukryposhta to be member of the supervisory board if you comply with, of the terms. And step by step with the Ukrainian Seaport Authority, the same situation. We will work and advocate the story for the supervisory board to be there in order to diminish, the influence of the ministers, of the cabinet of ministers. So we want professional people to govern, the companies. Yes.
Of course. How do you plan to finish this roadmap in 1 year?
So so our role, we are not government officials, so we are still non-government organization, and we are just people who wants to do something for this country and something, good. That is why what is our role? We advocate this story. So we just summarize what is crucial,
what is urgent right now,
and we have what is crucial, and starting from now, we are starting to advocate this story to for instance, we gather all the stakeholders together to discuss, some issues that are, that were not solved, for instance. We try to elaborate consensus among them, and then work with the parliament, work with the government to say that, these rules should be done, these, amendments should be implemented. We discuss and work with them, telling that why it is needed. And after, some rounds of negotiations, I'm happy that we are supported by the government, and I would say that only in collaboration with the government, with the parliament, we will succeed together as a country, but not as we as the office. We are supported by different associations like American Chamber of Commerce, European Association, Business Association. So we are supported by experts. That is why it will be our common, success if we manage to implement all these steps till end of next year.
So basically, your NGO is you're like watchdogs of Ukraine's reforms being implemented here in Ukraine.
Yes.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you for this conversation. Unfortunately, we run out of time, but thanks for your interesting comments and thanks for this contribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Nadiiya Kaznacheyeva, Project Manager of the National Investment Council of Ukraine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more with UATV.